How's it going, everybody? This is Ged from Fabulous Flicks, and today I will be doing part 2 of my dive into the Emotiva T2 and C2 speakers. For those of you that have not watched part 1, the unboxing, please do so. There'll be a link up here somewhere you can go to now, and you can check that out before I dive into my review itself. So I guess a very brief history as to why I ended up kind of taking the chance on these was I was replacing Definitive Technology 8060 Super Towers as well as the 8040 Center. And as much as I loved them for movies, they were very dynamic. They have the powered sub in the bottom, so they gave me great diversity of frequencies. I always felt like there was something kind of missing in the middle, and from a musical perspective, they weren't necessarily something I would want to come down to my theater room to really enjoy. Before that, I had run Paradigm Monitor 7s, which were musically beautiful, but really kind of lacked that open, airy feel and that dynamic boom that I wanted for the front of my home theater. Now, if you're watching and you also have a room that you watch movies on, you watch TV on, and you do occasionally listen to music on, you'll be able to understand my struggle here. So I started doing some research a little while ago. I love what the company is about. I'm a big fan of their amplifiers and processors. I'll get into that in a sec. And as I started to research what they were doing with the T2 and the C2 there was something about it that really caught my eye. I really like the woven fiber mids and lows they were using. The air motive ribbon tweeters really caught my eye, and as I was speaking to other friends in the audio world, they really kind of reiterated that this ribbon tweeter has the ability, just the technology in general, to be very open and very airy. So I was looking for something that I thought was next to impossible. I wanted something that was going to give me a lot of good full bass and mid bass from a musical perspective so that I could enjoy music in my theater room again. But I was also looking for something that had that extra level to be dynamic, that had an open and clear tweeter, that wasn't going to be piercing or crazy, but also wasn't going to be muddled. To top it all off, probably a third of the people that come down and sit in my theater room are fairly off axis. Like I would say they're 45 degrees minimum off axis. And the one issue I really had with my Definitive Technologies was, although it sounded great for me, who of course I'm set up right in that middle, in that Sheldon spot.
She's in my spot.
Yeah. Where everything is perfect. The people that were sitting off to the one side really lost a lot of vocal. So I was looking for something that was musically balanced. I was looking for something that was dynamic and fun and could punch me in the face from a theater perspective. And I was looking for something that had ultra wide dispersion for guests that were sitting off main axis. Pretty much impossible, or so I thought. So last week, or just over a week ago I guess now, I did an unboxing, had a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I turned them on, plugged them in when my other speakers left, got them set up, and before I did any type of calibration, I ran them at kind of low music level for about 6 or 7 hours. Maybe an old wives' tale, but there's just that old school Future Shop Best Buy part of me from when I used to work there that, it's always nice to warm that speaker up a little bit. Now you're probably going to tell me it doesn't matter, and maybe it doesn't, but for the 6 inches between my ears, I felt it was the right thing to do. So, got them, I got them set up, ran an initial calibration, and I guess the first thing that really jumped out to me was the settings. So I run a Denon 4300. I guess this is important for this. I run a Denon 4300, and it runs through, for my fronts, an Emotiva XPA3 Gen 1, which puts out about 200 watts continuous per channel, all channels driven at 8 ohm, and about 300 watts per channel, all channels driven at 4 ohm. Now I do have an LPA1, a 6 channel for the rears, but that's not really relevant for this video. So I set it up, and the first thing that blew me away is Denon actually set my fronts and my center up as large speakers to run full range. Now for those of us that have calibrated theaters before or who do this as a hobby, this is kind of petrifying. Typically we're used to seeing something, let's cross it over at 40 hertz or 60 hertz, You don't want to stress the speaker out too much. You don't want to start to hear it crackle. So when I saw the results come back, I was pretty petrified. So just as a quick recap, 91 decibel rating. They are a native 4-ohm speaker. Now this is key because the Emotiva amp that I run can run at 4 ohms. So I started out by playing some concert music, John Mayer's Where the Light Is tour on Blu-ray, just to kind of get a feel for what that, because he's got that really cool like bassy bluesy section, whether you're listening to tracks like Neon or Belief or In Your Atmosphere or Why Georgia Why. There's a really good combination of mid to low bass frequency as well as some really cool acoustic work. To my surprise, I was absolutely blown away. Like I said, I loved my Definitive Technology speakers. Don't get me wrong, they were great. But there was a chunk of middle, basically like the meat of your hamburger, that I always felt was kind of missing from a musical perspective. So instantly, the hairs on my arm stand up. I'm like, okay, cool. So from there, I went to something streamed. I figured we live in a streaming world. Yes, a Blu-ray sounds great, but let's try something streamed. So I turned on A Star Is Born. I'm kind of a sap. I'm a guy that's going to cry to that movie every single time I watch it. Move it to 35 minutes into the movie where Shallow is debuted, and then skip it to 55 minutes in the movie where Remember Us This Way. And it's really cool because leading up to the first track, Shallow, he's finishing up his Bradley Cooper's finishing up his old song before that. And it's a very complicated musical piece. Absolutely was phenomenal. But obviously I was waiting to hear what Lady Gaga's vocals were going to sound like in that moment versus the instrumental in the background. I'm telling you, that tweeter was open, it was airy, it was crisp, it wasn't tweaking. The music in the background was perfectly balanced, and her vocals were literally just smashing me in the chest. This center speaker at 32 inches wide, the company claims that the Emotiva tweeter and the speakers themselves, both in the T2 Plus and the C2 Plus, have dispersion of about 60 degrees. They are not wrong. I even got up and walked over to kind of the corner, I'm looking at it now, of where some people sit, and the accuracy in the vocals, everything was still perfectly balanced. I also read on a forum to not really toe them in. So I've got one running perfectly straight. I'll show a picture of it. And the other one, which is in the far end of the room, is tilted in maybe 10 degrees, nothing crazy, because the dispersion on them is so wide that you don't have to toe them into a certain area. So musically, they were phenomenal on a concert Blu-ray. Those two scenes in A Star Is Born was absolutely beyond phenomenal. So then I ran it through a couple of full Atmos tests. I ran Mission Impossible 6, the opening scene where he jumps on the plane, and there's a lot of very cool natural noises in there with the warming up of the engine, people trying to speak in the background. I didn't lose a single thing vocally, and again, everything just felt like it was rising together. Nothing was jumping out of balance. Nothing was mismatched in terms of frequencies. It was borderline overwhelming. From there, I went to the ending scene of the original Deadpool, where DMX is rapping "X gonna give it to you," and they're going to face Francis. Obviously, not a lot of natural sounds in there because it's very much a superhero movie. But again, accurate representation when gunfire starts to happen. Nothing pitches or peaks. I mean, it was brilliantly done. So, as you can probably tell, my overall impression of the Emotiva T2 and C2 Plus speakers is not only grossly overwhelmingly good, but I kind of feel like I stole them. Like I almost feel like it's insulting for how much I paid for these speakers and what I got. So I was looking at the Klipsch RF7 Series 3, which again, remember I'm speaking in Canadian, are about $5,000 for the pair, and the center is around that $1,000 mark. So it's about a $6,000 sound. These I picked up for $1,000 US a pair, and I got them on sale where they were running a promo, and I ended up being like less than $2,000 Canadian out the door after shipping. If you're willing to take a chance the way that I did, you cannot buy better speakers for the money on the market. There is no way on God's green earth. Please keep in mind, Emotiva did not send these to me. I mean, they're welcome to if you're listening to. If you guys are listening, I'm happy to audition anything you guys want. But this stuff was absolutely phenomenal. So here come my pros and cons. And I'll start with the cons. So the first con isn't really a con, is that you really can't run these off a receiver. These are a 4-ohm speaker. They need to be driven with, pardon my language, but a big pitch of an amplifier. Like I said, I'm running an XPA3 Gen 1. It's running at 4 ohm, and it is open. It is beautiful, and I can run these things dangerously close to reference level, or 0 for you guys who don't know what that is. And they don't crackle. They don't distort. They don't pitch. Like it's borderline crazy. But the caveat is you do need to run a receiver. Or sorry, you don't just run it through a receiver. You need to run it through an amplifier. The second caveat or con, you can't listen to them in a retailer, so you have to be willing to take a chance. Yes, they have a return policy. You are on the hook for paying the shipping to get it back if you don't like them. I can't imagine why anybody would not like these. They're absolutely beautiful. And again, I'm not really sure if you take it as a con, but it's only available in black and not a wood black. It's like this vinyl black color with the, with the grills on them. What I loved about it is when I turn the lights down or off in my theater room, I literally can't see them, which is exactly what you want. You don't want blinking lights, and it's not supposed to look like, your house at Christmas when you're watching a movie. You want that space blacked out, and all you want to do is be able to hear and feel what's going on. Here's my list of pros. First of all, they're big and beautiful. 12 inches by 12 inches. These are a pronounced speaker, and they sound brilliant. The center channel dialogue is clear, it's crisp, it's not pitchy, but they're so big, and yes, I did leave them at running full frequency. The center has ports on the back, which is mind-boggling. They ran full frequency brilliantly. I can play them loud and they don't pitch. I can play them quietly and they'll still run at full dynamic range. They sound absolutely brilliant. I did turn off all of the extra Odyssey features, dynamic volume and dynamic EQ. It's just not something I'm really into, and it wasn't needed. They sound incredible at low. Another pro, I mean, the price. Like I said, I literally feel bad for how little I paid for these speakers. These things are crisp, they are full, they're musically neutral, but from a theater perspective, they're very theatrically dynamic. So musically neutral, theatrically dynamic. And as long as you're okay with the cons of having to run them through an amplifier, accepting the fact that that center is big and beautiful, and that they do only come in the one color, then you physically cannot go wrong with these speakers. They are absolutely mind-boggling. Trying to be as objective as possible. Like I said, this is not paid for by Emotiva. This is just a guy who loves to listen to music, who loves to watch movies, who watches all the physical media he can, but also understands that streaming is a way of life. You cannot go wrong. So this is Ged from Fabulous Flicks. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you're on the fence, take the risk. You absolutely will not regret it. Until next time, take care. Oh, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is you're celebrating, or even if you're not celebrating, you're just spending time with family. Please have a very safe and happy holidays. Take care.